Hey everyone, my name is Aiden. I'm one of the co-founders here at Fellow, and I am super excited to welcome you to this Fellow version 3 launch event. Today is going to be an amazing day because we get the chance to tell you the story of all the work that we've been doing over the last year, talking to you, our users, and reimagining what the Fellow experience can be for all of you. We know that the world is about to change. A lot of people are going back into the office, some are staying remote, and some are going into this hybrid work environment where it's a little bit of both. And with this new environment and a new way of doing meetings, we decided to reimagine the Fellow experience to not only help you have better meetings, but also to help you manage your teams in this new environment. One of the things that we talk a lot about here at Fellow is that our mission is to help make meetings delightful for everyone. And that's one of the things that we've done today, and hopefully you'll all agree. And so without further ado, let's all see Fellow version 3 in action. Manuela, it's good to see you.
Aiden, it's good to be back for another Fellow product launch. How exciting is this?
I know, this is literally my favorite part of the job.
Yeah, our team has been working so hard, building so many great features based on our users' feedback, and I'm so excited to learn about them today.
Yeah, it's going to be, and this isn't just any launch event. This is Fellow version 3. So this is a full version upgrade, and like full version upgrades are always so cool. Let's do it. I mean, we can dive in. I think people are very excited to get right into it. So let me just share my screen. All right. Well, this is the Fellow screen that everybody knows and loves. You might look at this and then say, well, it looks largely the same, except, maybe some of these colors are a little bit different, but
different colors, yes.
yeah, if you start to look a little bit more closely, what you might notice is that the left nav bar is slightly different. You might notice that, there's less things. And so you might want to then click on some of these things to see what happens. And we used to have a homepage, but if you click on this homepage, let's see what that looks like. It looks very different. So this is the first thing, and I'm very excited about this one. This is our brand new, we're calling it the new nav bar. And this is going to be very, very powerful. So let me just emphasize what just happened. So I was here in my meeting section, and then I clicked on home, and immediately nothing changed. There wasn't a full page refresh. I was just able to go to this other section and change the left side without changing the right side. That is huge. It may sound like a very small thing, but it is enormous, because one of the things we're trying to do is we're trying to reduce the friction. We're trying to make everything much faster. And so that's the first thing that happens. So the left and the right are now decoupled. And I think that's super incredible. But let's dig in. So there are a lot of things here to kind of notice. The first is my starred section. So all the meetings that I've starred kind of show up here. And these are the things that I want quick access to, right? So they may happen on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, but I just want them in quick view. And again, just to remind everyone, you can start a meeting by just clicking on the star icon that I'm kind of pointing to here, and then they will show up there. The next thing, and you can, by the way, you can maximize and minimize these things depending on what you're doing. The next thing, this is a brand new section. You can now see today's meetings all in the same place as well. And it's just located here. Here's all the things we're doing. And you can also maximize and minimize that at will. And of course, you still have your one-on-ones here. You still have your other streams, anything else that you're working on. But what's really nice about it is I can go in, I can go into this meeting that we're at here today. I could go back to a one-on-one that I'm having, and I can very quickly switch between these things without necessarily switching the page. It just makes it so much faster to do that.
And to prepare for your meetings, right? For example, if you're attending a meeting currently and you remember a talking point based on what is being discussed at this meeting that you want to add to another meeting in the future, it's so easy to go back and forth in between your meeting notes. I absolutely love this new change.
Yeah, and so there is one more thing as well. So you'll notice that we've really tried to simplify, right? I think most products over the course of time, they get bloated and there's so many features and you can't find anything. What we actually try to do at Fellow is simplify things over the course of time. So this is much nicer and you have these sections, but the other aspect is we've also taken action items, which was previously on the left, and now we've put it at the top here. So what's really cool about that is I can go from action items to, I can go to a starred meeting I have, I can go to this meeting, I can go to my one-on-one, and everything is located in that one place. And we've also moved activity feed to the top as well. So if you wanted to say, hey, what's going on in my meetings? Who's added stuff to an agenda? Who's completed an action item? Like, this is a question that we get all the time, right? What is my team working on? And you can very quickly access all of that here. So what we've really tried to do, and by the way, if your list gets longer, this nicely scrolls. What this is going to allow you to do is to jump from one thing to the other, do it very quickly. And it's going to change the way, less clicks, faster, everything in one place. I think this is going to be a game changer.
It's a game changer for sure. I love having all my notes in one place. And now with the action items in that same section, it's going to be so easy to prepare for meetings and know what everyone's working on. I love it.
Yeah. So this is going to be a little bit of a change, right? So it's going to be a little bit of a change. You probably have built some muscle memory and clicking on, maybe you access your action items by scrolling over to the left and clicking that action items menu. It's going to take a little bit of getting used to, but I promise once you start getting used to it, you'll notice, why does everything feel so much faster? And and this is how that works. And even like little minor things. So if I wanted to go back to my meeting section, for example, again, like the page doesn't change. You can see that my activity feed is still there. And it just makes it easier. And then I can click on a particular event, and then I go to the page that we were working on.
Wow, if that's only the first update, I can't wait to hear about all the other updates because this is amazing.
Yeah, I think it's a major update. I mean, we care about these sorts of things. We think it makes a huge difference. So yeah, let's jump into the second change. I am very excited about this. Honestly, when you first started talking about the new nav bar, I just wanted to, like, there's just so much excitement, right? Like when you're talking about something, for me, I don't want to interrupt you, but I want to express that this is really cool. And one of the things that we've been talking a lot about is hybrid work, right? So people are going back into the office, and then you might have a meeting. Some people are there, other people are not there. And so we really wanted to make Fellow work for people who are in a hybrid scenario or remote scenario. And one of the things about hybrid work is you have some people in the meeting physically there, and then some people not there. And so if someone is talking during the meeting and they're physically present, it's really hard for the people who are not there and who are just on screen to be able to say something, to react. It just becomes very difficult. So we've built a series of things that are going to make hybrid work a lot better. And the first of which is, when I look at this new nav bar, the first thing I want to do is if I hover over to the right, you'll see there's this really cool option called add a reaction. So if I click on add a reaction, it's going to give me my nice little emojis, and maybe I'm feeling a little funny today, so I can, use that one, or use my sunglasses emoji. And once you do that, then it becomes easier for other people to also tack on and add other things. And so this is really powerful because, again, it allows everybody to react to different items. Or, for example, if I'm going into a meeting and people are doing what they're supposed to do, which is populate the meeting and the agenda beforehand, I might want to go in because I'm checking out my day and actually start to react to a bunch of things in advance, right? And I think things like that are important. It makes your meetings more engaging, more inclusive. I just think it's going to be a huge benefit.
Yeah, and we've already used it internally for voting, right? So in the town hall, you asked everyone a question and everyone in the meeting reacted with a thumbs up or a thumbs down. And I thought that was so cool to see it in real time in the meeting note.
Yeah, I mean, just like taking that concept and turning it into voting just on its own is going to be a game changer. So I'm very, very excited to see how people are going to use this. It's going to be super exciting. Um, so I'm not sure if while I was showing that you noticed anything else that we should talk about.
Yeah, so I noticed that when you went to that kebab menu, there was something under reactions. And that's why I wrote a question for you there in the agenda. How can we make Fellow better for hybrid meetings?
Ah, very good. That's awesome. Actually, that's super thoughtful. I like that. So yes, you are correct. So if I go to the kebab menu, you will now notice that there's this new thing called add a comment. And so once I click on add a comment, I have the ability to do exactly that. I can say, start off by saying use reactions. The other thing I might say is, use comments. And so what's really cool is you now have the ability to write all of these things. You can do things like edit those comments afterwards or delete them. You can resolve the whole thing. And if you don't want to see it anymore, it's super easy, right? You can just X out of it. And as soon as you X out of it, then your private notes start to show up again. But you can just click on the comments and then see the comments over there. And what else is really cool is you can basically mention different people. The people have to be in the meeting, right? We don't want you to mention random people. What's nice about this is if you actually mention somebody, then they're going to be able to get a notification. And so that'll bring them back into the meeting. And so there's many other use cases. So, I mean, can you see, for example, this being useful for some of your asynchronous meetings?
Yes. So something I like about the way we run meetings at Fellow is that we prepare the agendas in advance. So sometimes we ask questions, right? Like the question I just wrote for you there. And by preparing in advance, our teammates can start answering those questions in the agenda. So it's almost like the conversation begins even before the meeting starts. So when you show up for the actual meeting, people know what we're going to talk about, know everyone's points of view, for example, on this question, and we're ready to start a conversation, a productive conversation.
Yeah, I think like that's a hugely beneficial one. Another one I'm thinking is like, I know that you have some status meetings with your team. Like, how do you see this impacting those?
Yeah, so we run asynchronous stand-ups where people write their priorities in the meeting note in Fellow, and I can see people commenting what their priorities are and commenting on other people's priorities. So, for example, if I have questions about someone's priorities for the week, I can comment, and they can then leave a comment under that comment clarifying the questions. So, I think this makes meeting notes so much more useful for everyone, and it creates more conversation in the meeting note.
Yeah, I think, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's just going to be useful for so many different things. And I know that people are going to get creative and use it for a lot more things than even we have imagined. But I'm very excited for this to be available. Of course, this stuff is not available yet. This is an exclusive view, but as soon as it's available, I think it's going to be a game changer. So one thing that I did want to, move on to is just talking about making meetings better, particularly in hybrid, right? So what's happening is things are changing, and anytime there's change, you're not going to get it perfect from the get-go. And so when things are not perfect, you do want them to improve over time. And in order for something to improve over time, you obviously need feedback. And so we have done a few things on feedback that I'm very excited to share. The first of which is you've always had the ability at the top right of a meeting to click on ask for feedback and basically ask for feedback about the meeting. One quick thing I wanted to add is we have now added an extra question type, which is a multiple choice question type. And so you can not only add single choice questions, you can now also add multiple choice questions, which is a small improvement, but I think it's an important one. But the thing is that sometimes you don't want to do an elaborate, feedback ask. Sometimes you do, right? This is a specific meeting and you want to ask very specific questions. But other times, what you really want is you want to pulse on everything so that people can very quickly thumbs up and thumbs down something and provide feedback. And one of the things that we really liked was the way that a lot of these food delivery apps or Uber or some of these products just allow for very quick rating and quick feedback. And I think that the easier and faster something is, the more it's going to be used. And so what we've done is, not for one-on-ones, Fellow is detecting this meeting between us as a one-on-one. And I know this is our test account. It says Michelle instead of Manuela. But for any meeting that has more than 2 people, what you'll notice is there is now these new ratings at the bottom. And what you can do is, as soon as you click on any one of them, you can thumbs up it, for example. What ends up happening is you have the ability to select a few of these options, and then you can leave your comments. Say, for example, this was great. And as soon as I do that, what you're going to notice is there's this little green icon at the top of that meeting. And just like action items, right? So for us, action items is, if you've been running this meeting for 2 years, all of your action items are going to show up in this action items tab, so you can always keep on top of things. So now feedback is also going to show up there, and it's going to be public so that everybody in the meeting has the ability to see what people are saying. So it can be everybody's responsibility to improve that meeting over the course of time. I think this is going to be, it's going to be huge.
And like you said, I think this will be a game changer, especially in a hybrid world, because now meeting organizers and team leaders can ask their teams, whether they are in the office or some of them are joining remotely, hey, can you rate this meeting after the meeting is over? So the meeting organizer can understand, maybe people that are not in the office have different feedback from people that are in the office. So I think this will be really, really important and a game changer when we enter a hybrid work model.
Yeah. And so one of the things that I recommend, as soon as these features are released and people have access to them, is I would go in and as part of the agenda, I would add something called Rate This Meeting. And the reason it's really important, and we're experimenting with a bunch of different ways that people can kind of like implement this workflow, but nothing is better than actually putting it in the agenda. And so what happens is, like, when you get to that point in the agenda, the organizer, the host, can say, hey, everybody, take 2 seconds, click on and rate this meeting. And imagine if that was part of your culture, right? That is how you start to implement a feedback culture. And what I would say is, I would actually save that as a template, right? So when you click Save as Template, we have this new template editor, which we demoed in our last release. And that will now be part of the way that you do things for every recurring instance of that meeting. So now when you get to the end, just like we encourage start every meeting by reviewing the action items, now we say end every meeting by making sure that everybody takes the 2 seconds to click on the right feedback item, so that everybody's invested in making this meeting better. And what's cool is the history of all that feedback is going to be in one place. And there's a bunch of other things that we're going to do as well. But I think this is a sneak peek of some of the cool things that are going to happen. And of course, for the larger companies out there, you can imagine how cool this is going to be, where you're going to be able to get meeting statistics and analytics and intelligence across the board. So I don't want to give away too many surprises, but this is the beginning of a lot of very cool things to come.
And I love that in the feedback section, you can also see the history of the feedback for that meeting, right? So even if you're a new manager or you're inheriting a team, for example, you can see feedback from previous meetings on what people have said they liked and didn't like about that meeting. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So I think, this is another, again, like on the theme of hybrid work, we really, really care about this stuff. We kind of see ourselves, our responsibility to help our users and our customers everywhere to be able to perform at their best. And so this stuff means a lot to us. And so that's why we put these things in. Let's talk about the next thing. And the next thing is, one of the things that we keep hearing is, okay, we implemented Fellow in our own meetings. And so now the meetings in our company are much better. We have the rule of no agenda, no meetings. Like, it's changed the game. People are doing one-on-ones. We're very happy. But like, we're still working with a lot of outside organizations, and, bad habits can sometimes be contagious. But the good news is good habits are also contagious. And so part of it is like, how do we make sure that we constantly, with people that we work with outside the organization, how do we constantly make those relationships better? And you'll remember, like in a previous release, we built this new feature called guest users. And guest users is pretty powerful. You have the share icon located at the top right of your screen, and you can add in teammates and they can be guest users. And guest users makes a lot of sense, especially if you have recurring meetings with those external users, right? It's a nice interface. You get the recurring history of the meetings, everybody can collaborate. But sometimes you're participating in a meeting that's kind of like a one-off, right? Maybe it's like a group session with 20 people. Maybe it's like a fun community event that you're part of, and you want there to be an agenda and you want there to be notes and action items. And for things like that, it might not make sense for you to add a guest user account for everybody, right? Like it's a little bit overkill, maybe a little bit overhead. So what we've done is we've built this new thing that we're calling share with public link. And this one is really powerful. If you enable it, it gives you this public link, and you can copy that public link. It goes onto your clipboard, and then you can share that with any way that you want. It's still got security built in because you have the ability. It's a hard to guess link, but it gives you the flexibility to very quickly get fellow access to all the people that you're involved with.
I can see this being so helpful. Like you said, for one-off meetings, let's say you're meeting with a consultant or a mentor or a mentee, and you want to make sure there's an agenda for that meeting that is not a recurring meeting, public links will be a game changer for that.
Speaking of sharing, one of the questions that we've been getting a lot is, how do we manage shared calendars? I mean, so for example, at Fellow, we have a Fellow company calendar, right? And sometimes we want to take notes on that, or it's just interesting for everybody to see that. Some people use multiple calendars for, their personal items, for blocking off time. They just use different calendars, and they want access to that in Fellow. But the other thing is, sometimes we hear from like executive assistants who say, oh, I have access to the shared calendar with the person, the executive that I'm supporting. How do I gain access to it automatically so I can make modifications in the agenda? And we get all these questions. And so people have been asking for this for a very long time. So I'm very excited to announce that Fellow now supports this new feature we're calling multiple calendars. And so multiple calendars is basically going to allow you to see all the company calendars, all the calendars you have access to. You can check them off and then save the changes. And what happens is then those calendar events start showing up. So we have a calendar event for Fellow 3.0 that is our company calendar event. And so you can see that now I have access to that, and everybody else also has access to that.
Okay, so this means that if this is a company shared calendar, everyone in the company will be able to see this meeting note, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so, I mean, it's going to be huge for any sort of like company events or just anything that everybody is going to have access to. I think it's going to make a huge difference.
That's amazing. Okay, should we go back to our meeting note and continue with the updates?
Oh, yes, with the other exciting updates. Let's do that. So in other news, one of the things, and this has been one of the top requested features in the last little while, one of the things we like to say at Fellow is make meetings delightful for everyone. And one of the elements of delight that people have been very interested about is changing the UI a little bit. And, specifically, we have heard a lot that people want to get this new feature that we're launching called dark mode. And you can see as I click that, I basically turn off the lights and everything turns dark, which is really, really cool. But also what's interesting is we also have a sync with OS setting. So if I were to enable that one, if my operating system is in dark mode, it'll kind of switch. And so, for example, if you have it set for it to go into dark mode at a certain hour, Fellow will just follow that behavior and go there. But you can see it's a beautiful interface. Everything is, works that way. I'm a huge dark mode fan. I don't know, what are your thoughts on dark mode?
I like having it with the OS setting. So basically, maybe during the day, I have Fellow with the day appearance, and then at night, it's dark mode.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. So, I mean, whatever the way that you like it to work best, now it's completely available. It also obviously works on mobile. We've taken a long time to make the experience very nice. You can see all the reactions, the comments, everything. And I love that you put the moon there. I will vote on that too. Ultimately, we're very proud to get this out there. So with that said, we have a few more surprises, but before we get to the surprises, should we do a recap?
Let's do a recap. And yes, we do have a couple surprises for everyone in the audience. I'll be announcing something later, so stay tuned to the other part of the event.
Yes, and if you like what you've heard so far, you're gonna love that stuff too. So stay tuned. But basically, we started off by talking about a new nav experience that we built. It's very fast to go from each item to the next, and it's all about usability. You're gonna notice this is gonna speed up your usage. You're gonna spend time in one page mostly. We talked about hybrid work. We really care about this and helping you be productive and being your best selves in this new hybrid environment. So we have comments and reactions. We made it so that all your meetings can be better and continuously be improved through the ability to vote and rank and rate meetings on the spot in a very quick way. You now have the ability to share your meetings with others in a much easier format through public links. And last but not least, we have also enabled dark mode. So for all you dark mode fans out there, hope that you're going to have a lot of fun with this. With that said, let's go to our next surprise.
Hi everyone, Alexandra here. I'm an engineering manager on the team here at Fellow, and I'm very excited to show you today a demo of our new note blocking feature. So one of the best things about Fellow is that for every meeting on your calendar, every event that you're in, you get access to this real-time collaborative notes editor where everybody who's on the event automatically gets access to start creating talking points, helping you create the meeting agenda, taking notes throughout the meeting, adding recaps at the end, and it's very easy to just dive right in and start editing the meeting notes for the events that you're in. But we've also noticed that not necessarily every type of meeting that we're in should have this type of behavior. And maybe there are some types of notes where you want to write the agenda yourself and make sure nobody else can contribute to it, or maybe even prevent people from editing the note after the meeting has happened if you want to preserve it for historical accuracy. For example, if you have a town hall, if you're in a large company and you have updates coming out from the CEO and you have a set meeting agenda where certain things are going to be talked about, you might want to have that be set by a few people and then not have hundreds of people in the company able to come in and start adding their own agenda items to it as well. And maybe in this case that I have on the screen, there's a board meeting and you want to make sure that after the meeting happens, nobody can edit the note because you want to make sure that it continues to reflect what happened at the time. Other cases too, like maybe you have a performance improvement plan. You want to make sure that once everything has been talked about, nobody can go back and edit the note. There are a lot of cases where this type of collaboration isn't something you necessarily want. And so what we've done is we've added a new feature that lets you lock edit access to the note while still being able to take on some key functionality. So what I have here in this stream is the board meeting note that happened last Tuesday. This is still editable. I can still add some talking points to it. Let's talk about hiring again. I can check things off. I can assign talking points to different people. So this is still a note in its normal state where everybody can access things. What I have below is a note that has been locked. Notes that have been locked have these messages at the top here, which let you know they cannot be edited. And you cannot add to the note. You cannot write anything. You can still check off items, which is important if you have action items that you want to still complete after the note has been edited. But otherwise, this note is now stuck in this state where nobody on the event can go back and change things and make it seem like we talked about things that didn't happen or add or remove different items. So it is still easy to unlock notes if you want to change them. So for this case, this has happened last Tuesday, and so I want to make sure that this note is no longer changed and it stays the way it is for now. So we've added this new lock note button here. And when I click that, the note has been locked and I can no longer edit it. And if I want to revert that and start adding some things that I forgot, I just click in the same spot and I can start adding things again. So you can do this on a per note basis where you lock and unlock notes. But if your organization is one where maybe this functionality should be applied to all notes, then we have a new setting over in the workspace settings as well. So down here, you'll find this auto lock meeting notes option, and turning this on, I have it off by default because I still want to be able to collaborate on notes. But if you do turn it on, then you have the option of choosing when the notes should auto lock after. So if you want the notes to auto lock after a week, then people will not be able to edit those notes after a week has passed, after the end of the meeting. So we think that this feature will be really useful for those cases where you have the large town hall meetings or the smaller meetings where historical context really matters. You want to make sure that nobody can go back and alter the history of the note. And we're excited to hear what other use cases and types of meetings you run where this kind of thing would be useful. And with that, back to Manuela for an exciting announcement.
Hey, Fellow managers and leaders, it's Manuela, Marketing Manager at Fellow. We hope that you enjoyed watching those demos of the product and the new features that we built for you based on your feedback. I certainly had a lot of fun chatting with Aiden and understanding the story behind these new features. So, before we go into the Q&A section of the event, I have a very exciting announcement to make. As some of you may know, we host a podcast at Fellow called the Super Managers Podcast, where Aiden interviews leaders from all walks of life to tease out the habits and thought patterns and experiences that help them be extraordinary leaders. The exciting announcement is that we have a new show coming up very soon, where I will be the host and I will be interviewing meeting experts and organizers on the best practices and meeting productivity tips that you can start applying with your team. So stay tuned for the art of the meeting. So without further ado, here's the trailer for the show. All right, now without further ado, please join us for a live Q&A with Fellow CEO and co-founder Aiden Mirzai.